What's up, everybody? This is Johnny Basement, and we are back here in the basement going over what the New York Mets horrendous ending to their 101 season, their 101 win season. The Mets were killing it this year, killing it. They spent almost the entire year in first place. What happened at the end? We're not going over the whole season. We're going over what happened at the end. Why? Because that's what we do. New York fans focus on what have you done for me when it mattered the most. Johnny Basement, subscribe, bell notice, like button, leave some comments at the bottom. Let's jump into this thing with the Mets. Yes, it's 101 wins. The Mets were rolling high all season long. What happened at the end? There isn't even the excuse of our best pitchers didn't get to play or they faced the back end of our order or whatever. No, the Mets lost in the worst way possible. Now, you guys that know me all along know that I am a die-hard New York Yankee fan. The Mets, I am one of the unusual ones in New York. The Mets are actually my second favorite team. They are. The Mets have nothing to do with the Yankees. I'll never understand the hate between the fans on the two teams. I just don't get it because neither team has anything to do with each other unless they actually meet in the World Series. I grew up in a Mets household. I've always been accustomed to be a Yankee fan. Dave Winfield was my favorite Yankee growing up with Don Mattingly a close second. But the Mets grew up. And why am I wearing this Met jersey today? What year is it from? 1986. When you had the Mets, the last time they played with real heart, had a team that could win. This team was 86 was dysfunctional. This Mets team now is a tight unit. This Mets team in 86, the last time they won was dysfunctional. Strawberry punched Wally Backman during the team photo in preseason. Like there was guys doing drugs, drinking, hardcore stuff from Hernandez to Strawberry to Gooden to everything. The 80 Lenny Dykstra, an absolute disaster. That guy's still a disaster to this day. That Met team won, and they didn't even like each other. Half the players hated each other. That team won. This Mets team here, everybody had camaraderie. These guys are teammates. They went out together. They bonded together. Mark Canha even admitted he never played on a team before that actually had this much talent and championship status around them and the winning attitude that they've had. But now this 2022 Mets season goes down in like '07 and 2016 and last year 2021, where they had everything rolling for them. And at the All-Star break and after the All-Star break, every Met fan knows, boom, boom, they didn't even make the playoffs. So what happened this season? What happened? How many teams bring in draft picks that actually thrive? Who bats 1,000 with not draft picks, with free agents? Who bats 1,000 with free agents like Mark Canha? Killed it this year. Scherzer killed it. Chris Bassett killed it. They had players killing it. Vogelbach comes in. The guy's killing it. What happened? What happened? 10.5 game lead in first place. As a matter of fact, Met fans came at me when I'm doing Yankee stuff. Met fans talked a lot of trash to Yankee fans this season about how they're killing it. And the Yankees are going to blow this 15.5 game lead they had, which would have been the most in history, right? Been the most in history. The Yankees have blown that 15.5 game lead. They never did. The Rays came within 3.5 games. The Yankees were horrible in August, 10 and 18, a lot of injuries. We're not here to talk about the Yankees. It's just that the Mets were on such a high, and the Met fans were such a high that they attacked Yankee fans and how they're laughing how your team, the Yankees, are going to blow their first place lead. Meanwhile, the Mets blew theirs, 10.5 game lead. Atlanta kept winning and winning and winning and winning. But Buck Showalter and the Mets held them off. They held him off when DeGrom was out. He didn't come back till after the All-Star break. Max Scherzer, 2 different stints, missed time. Tawan Walker was the best pitcher the Mets had, and he was killing it this season. Carlos Carrasco was killing it this season. What happened? They held the fort when the Braves were winning like 14 in a row. The Mets, without their top pitching, still held first place, still held in there. Now at the end of the season, you get such a cupcake schedule. I marked down 3 times where the Mets showed signs of disintegration, of typical New York Mets baseball. I'm telling you, remove the M, you put the J in front of the Jets, Mets, they do the same crap. The same crap. They don't win when it matters most. Now, they showed signs earlier in September, early September, The Mets, can you imagine the Mets had teams? Mets September, really, these are the type of teams they had to play in September. And they end up in a wild card? I mean, you had the Nationals, the Pirates twice, the Cubs, the Oakland A's. The Oakland A's. These are the teams the Mets had in September. They had the Brewers. That was a good team. Okay, you had the Brewers. And then, of course, you had Atlanta at the very end. But mainly, September was a bunch of doormats you were playing and couldn't take advantage. Dropped 2 out of 3 to the Nationals, got swept by the Cubs. How the hell did that happen? Then you have the big series at the end, and here's where it really comes in. This is where it really stings the most because all excuses are gone. You play a huge series against the Braves, which everybody and their mother thought was going to be washed out by Hurricane Ian. They didn't even think that weekend series was going to happen, but it did happen in Atlanta, and the Mets come in. The Mets come in strong. DeGrom, Scherzer, Bassett. You got our top 3 pitchers, Atlanta. You got the top 3 pitchers, and 2 of which, DeGrom and Scherzer, are 2 of the greatest in the game. DeGrom being the greatest pitcher in the game. The greatest pitcher in the game is DeGrom, and he's definitely going to the Hall of Fame. Scherzer's a future Hall of Famer. And they got swept. Max Scherzer got bombed by the Braves. Bombed. How many teams would Max Scherzer be the number 2 guy on anyway? He'd be the ace on almost every other team. Almost every other team in Major League Baseball. He's a 2 guy to DeGrom. The Mets had the team. They had the team. They had the pitching staff. It's probably one of the best pitching staffs start from number 1 to number 5 the Mets have ever had. And you get swept? You can't even talk. DeGrom, Scherzer, Bassett, they all lost. But that's okay, right? It's okay. Atlanta ends up taking over first place. The Mets end up finishing up their season, right? So now they end up in the wild. All the Mets had to do was win 1 game out of that 3. Just 1. Hold the fort for the end till the end of the month, finish out against the Nationals, right? And you would have won first place. You would have won it. You would have won first place. You just took 1 out of that 3 against the Braves. Just 1. You would have won first place. You wouldn't have had to go through this BS against the Padres. But that's okay, right? Because Mets have the Padres at home in the wild card. All you got to do is win 2. And lo and behold, DeGrom, Scherzer, Bassett again. Except it was Scherzer, DeGrom, Bassett, right? So you got your top 3 guys again coming in. Again. No way they're going to blow this again. Right? Not these top 3 guys. What happened in game 1? Scherzer gives up 7 runs. They lose 7-1. Scherzer gave them all. He was giving up home runs left and right. Home runs left and right. Gets bombed. Bombed. I think he gave up 10 earned runs between the start from the Braves to the start against the Padres. At least 10 earned. 10 earned runs. Then the next day you have Jacob DeGrom. Pitched a great game. Jacob pitched a great game. Gave up a couple of runs, held the fort, did what he was supposed to do. The Mets scored the runs. The Mets piled on the runs. Game 2, got that over with. Mets are going to be okay, right? Because now game 3 is here, the final game, and we have it at Citi Field. I still call it Shea Stadium. Isn't that funny? Citi Field. Chris Bassett going out on the mound. Former ace from the Oakland A's. Been pitching pretty well for the Mets this year, right? We're going to win this thing, right? No. Not only does he get knocked around like he did against the Braves, he gets knocked around again. Again. In his second start against the Padres. In a meaningful must-win game. Have-to-win game. Because if you don't win this game, the next game you have is in April. Regular season anyway. April. You have to win this game. So it's not just on Bassett. The Mets had 1 hit. Joe Musgrove pitched an outstanding game the way the Mets only had 1 hit. Thank you, Pete Alonso, from sparing a no-hitter in Game 3 at home at Citi Field in a wild card where the Mets won 101 freaking games. And you come out with 1 hit from Alonso. 1 hit. 1 hit. That's what you do at the end of this season? Fold away like that? And by the way, guys, not for nothing, how about Trent Grisham, a 184 hitter? 184 hitter. 184 for the season hitter. Wouldn't know that when he played against the Mets in this wild card. He homered off Scherzer. He homered off DeGrom. In game 3, he had four extra base hits. 4. Killed the Mets. 184 hitter. 184 hitter the whole season. Gets killed. Kills the Mets. Mets were what were they gonna do against the Dodgers playing the way they were just playing? You can't beat a very good Padres team minus Tatis. You can't beat them, right? Can't beat them. What were you gonna do against Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts and Trey Turner and the Dodgers that had a super all-star team? Were you spared an embarrassment there? Boy, all season long, I really thought the Mets, I really bought in. I said, man, the Mets are really going to do something. We might actually have a Subway Series. The Mets might go deep in the playoffs. I was bigging up start to finish. The Mets, their top pitching right down the row was good. Collectively, arguably, one of the best in the game, if not the best in the game. You could argue it. But the top guys got bombed at the end of the season. The hitting didn't come through. The Mets blew it. Buck Showalter should be back next season. There's no way he's getting fired. He did a tremendous job this season, won his over 1,600 games as a manager. He did a lot for the Mets, and he's been way better than what the Mets have had recently, and Mickey Callaway and then Luis Rojas, okay? So you keep Buck Showalter around. But I've always asked the question, why do guys like Buck Showalter and Dusty Baker, how come these guys don't win World Series? What happens to outstanding, amazing, legendary managers like these guys and they don't win World Series? Why? What happens? What happens in the postseason that has guys like these two men, legendary managers, both Hall of Famers, not win World Series? How does a Marty Schottenheimer, great regular season head coach in the NFL, how does he not win a Super Bowl? Marv Levy, Dan Reeves, there's plenty. We can go on and on. That's a whole other video why certain coaches do so well and have the respect of the locker room and still can't get it done. I don't understand it, man. I do not understand it. And this Mets team was great season, but in New York, as I would assume in Boston and Philadelphia and major market cities where the fans are very demanding, the media is demanding, we don't care about what you did in the regular season any longer. Max Scherzer, DeGrom, Bassett, guys in the batting order, you guys, these big pitching get paid for these moments. Scherzer's brought in for these moments. Not what you did in May and June. It's what you do now when the orange leaves are out. What you do now. And you got bombed. It's like Garrett Cole for the Yankees last year got bombed in that one game, pay you all that money, and that's what they pay these monies for these situations, not what you do in the regular season. These situations, the situation against the Braves, that's what you get these guys for, those times, not for April, May, and June. And the Mets blew it, and the Mets blew it with their big guns out there. There's no excuses, none to give, and they really can't be giving any. The Met fans cannot be giving any, and I'm a Met fan. Mets are my second favorite team, and I do like them. I like them a lot, and it bothers me that they're out of it. It does bother me that they're out of it. I got my number one Yankees still in it, but it bothers me the Mets aren't there. This whole series bothered me, and to end the season on such a dud. Yeah, 6-0 dud, but there was signs coming. As I said, they're dropping 2 out of 3 to the Nationals, getting swept by the Cubs, and then getting swept by the Braves, who are obviously a very good team, but you had your big guns out there, DeGrom, Scherzer, Bassett, you still lost. You get them back for the wild card, and you still drop 2 out of 3. Unacceptable. Horrendous. So the Mets now going into the offseason. DeGrom, he may not be back. Bassett may not be back. Brandon Nimmo may not be back, and a host of other guys that may not be back. So this Mets team that you had a real opportunity winning with this year may not get it done next year, may not have the same players on the team. It's going to be an interesting offseason, guys, another interesting offseason. But now along with 07, 16, 21, those 3 years have a new brother in the house, and that's 2022. Probably the most hurtful one that we've had of all 4, but you could argue any of those 4 years of the Mets that should have won a World Series out of any one of those 4 seasons, 07, 16, 21, 22. Any one of them you could argue as being the most painful one. But this is the most closest one in recent memory, 22, and this is the one that stings. Really stings because all the big guns got knocked down. There's no excuses to walk around with. None. Zero. I'm Johnny Basement. Subscribe, bell notice, like button, hit the comments, do everything you can on moving this channel toward 1,000 subs. That's what we're doing here. Until my next video, I am Johnny Basement, and I am out.